Welcome to Flame On. I'm Brian. I'm your host with the Rainbow Spotlight interview series that we like to do every Monday here live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And of course, live or not live, but on IGTV after the fact, whatever. I am joined today by the artist behind the forthcoming, in fact, when you see this, it'll be live on Kickstarter, the Miracles from Queer Comix, written by Joe Glass, who we also interviewed earlier this weekend. But I'm joined today with the artist from that book, Vincent. How are you, sir? It's good to see you.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Talking over email forever, yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
So I don't know why I want to call you Vinny. I will try not to. There's something in my brain, and it's so weird, and I apologize, but I will do my best. Vince, not Vincent, just Vince.
Yeah, just Vince. Family calls me Vincent, and there was a group in high school who liked Vinny, but so whatever you like.
I don't know, but Vince Underwood, thank you again. I appreciate you joining us for this. Let's just start with the Miracles, and then we'll talk about some of your other work. I talked to Joe a lot about this concept, which for our viewers, and I'll let you explain it obviously in more detail, but like real life meets superheroes, like fish out of water, sort of pulled from the pages, so to speak. Would that be a good way to sort of encapsulate the concept?
Yeah, Joe likes to call it, comic book refugees in the real world. So the idea behind it is we meet this young teen, Elliot Morgan, who he's a big comic book geek, and his favorite comic is Major Voltage Adventures. And the comic mysteriously ended on a giant cliffhanger. No idea what happened with it. He's obsessed with this single issue. And he, at one point, discovers very early in our story that he himself has superpowers. And shortly after making a big public display of using them, because he's grown up his whole life reading these stories, of course, the first thing he does is put on a homemade costume and go help some people. He runs into Major Voltage and another of his favorite heroes. And it turns out that they are his parents and that they are from a comic book world. And I know that sounds like probably like I'm giving away a big turn, but that is really just kind of the beginning of our story.
Yeah, actually. So I don't know if Joe went into even that much detail, but it's a great setup. I'm guessing that's all within like that first, maybe even like first one. It's a longer format, right? It's like it's a whole
it's a 120 page graphic novel. Yeah, 120 pages. It is self-contained, so you get the whole thing if you back it. There is potential for additional volumes. We love these characters. We do set up a few threads that we could run with, but the idea was to put out the whole package, give it to people all at once, rather than trying to kickstart issue to issue, and making people wait.
Well, I've only seen a few pages, right? There's like 3 pages that are out there. Yeah. I've loved what I'm seeing so far. I was talking with Joe and I'm like, your art reminds me a little bit of Jamie McKelvey. I get like a vibe of that. Just for reference, I mean, I'm sure your influences are all over the place, and you're not trying to like emulate him or anything, but it's a really clean line, and I like that a lot.
McKelvey is a big influence. Not so much in that you're right. I'm not trying to do a McKelvey impression. Like, this is very much my voice. But as my voice continued to develop artistically, and I just kept leaning harder and harder in this clean line, I spent my first couple of years of trying to do this professionally really resisting it, because I do like a wide range of artists. Like some of my favorites are people like Mitch Gerrits or Frank Quitely, right? Who like things are, I don't want to call them ugly, right? But they're less precious. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I even went up to Mitch and showed him some of my art at a con once, and it was like, how do I make this like you? And because I did like that kind of messier thing like he was doing on Mr. Miracle. And the problem was I was trying to be someone I'm not, because no matter how hard I kept trying to do that, I kept coming back to this cleaner line. So where McKelvey and similarly someone like Jen Bartel who I love, who work with these really, really clean lines. Where their influence is I read something like Wicked Divine or
Mhm.
Young Avengers, and I see just how successful that type of style is. What it provided me is not, oh, that's the path I should go down, but rather who I am has a place in comics, and particularly superhero comics.
Okay.
So like what I would say as far as like that McKelvey influence is, it's less I'm trying to do a McKelvey impression, but more like they opened the door to let me feel comfortable with what I'm doing.
Well, it's like the Scott McCloud understanding comics, like cartooning spectrum, right? It's the how sort of ideal is it, like real life photorealistic, to the more how like reductive cartoony can you get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And impressionist artists like Mitch Gerrard's, like they fall in there in that spectrum, but maybe a little bit more towards the abstract.
Yeah.
Whereas I think your stuff is more on the not photorealistic, but certainly a little closer to that. And what I like about that is, for this story, you're bridging like the real world and then this comic book world. So I feel like there's an opportunity there to like maybe even play with the style a bit to sort of reflect those different worlds, maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Something that hasn't really, there'll be a bunch of pages that people will be able to see when we launch tomorrow. But something that we have is, like I said, Elliot's a big fan of this comic, Major Voltage Adventures. And so there's a comic within the comic that I was able to create art for. And that is all done in a very Silver Age Kirby tribute style, which has just been an absolute blast for me to play with. I grew up just absolutely, this is going to make me sound a lot older than I am, but I grew up with a lot of Kirby. It was just reprints and books in the library were what I had access to. And I loved it. I copied it all the time as a kid. So to be able to sit down and in this book really pay tribute to him, like even the cover of Elliot's favorite issue is a tribute to a Thor 139, I think is the number off the top of my head. And so yeah, we get to play with style, and there's going to be moments that are shown through the comic in that style. There's going to be moments that are flashbacks, so there'll be a bit of a hybrid of my style and the Silver Age style. So yeah, you're absolutely correct that it does provide us those opportunities, and we're going to take them where we can.
No, that's awesome. I like stories that do that. I like stories that use a very distinct visual for like the flashbacks. You see that with Tom King's work on Strange Adventures, where he actually had two different artists, right, involved in that process. And that's neat. But when one artist can come in and like sort of have those different voices and get to play in those different spaces, I just think it's probably harder, but it's got to be a little more fun too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm having a blast.
So Joe couldn't quite place how you two like got together. I think he was saying it was through Twitter. Do you find that I mean, I have not been on your I have not seen the tweets that you put out. I don't want to sound like the olds that I am here with Twitter, because I don't use it as much as I should. But like, do you find Twitter's a really good space for you as an artist to sort of see other projects, find work, and sort of like mingle in the community?
Oh, 100%. I would not be doing this right now at all without it. One of the biggest things that happened to me as an artist was switching to digital. I'm very comfortable behind a computer. I've worked briefly in graphic design in my 20s. I've always just been kind of a computer geek. And so there was something about just entering that space where I just almost like overnight just started improving drastically, because all of a sudden I found all these tricks and tools and things that I was using for other work and just in my spare time and for fun were suddenly in my disposal when it came to making comics. And that all came about just because I started having conversations with artists in social media who I didn't know anything about. Like, I thought I didn't know how many of them actually, worked digitally or anything like that. So all of a sudden I was getting this information, knowing what to buy, what software, that kind of thing. So just as a resource for how to approach things and learning was huge, changed my whole career. But then on top of that, learning about the business, learning about how to, obviously, not like I learned to be professional just by talking to people, but you kind of learn what the expectations are when talking to editors and other creators and things. And you see how they interact with each other and how the community supports each other. And then just, beyond that, just simple networking, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Clark, who wrote Elk Mountain, we met online. Joe and I, I kind of picked up Joe's online presence shortly, actually not too long before we started talking to each other. The Pride, I believe, was just getting collected into its first trade. I saw that and I was just kind of drawn to it instantly, because I think the beauty of that book is, and it would have to be to call it The Pride, but it is so just openly proud, right? It does not pull any punches, and it's just like, look at this, I'm gonna do this. It's in your face, it's bright, it's fantastic. So right away, I see this guy on Twitter. I'm not familiar with his work before that moment, and I'm just like, this is a guy who is so himself creatively, and with nothing held back. I was just instantly like, I like this guy, right? So I started following him and interacting with every tweet I could, being like, you're so cool, notice me, right? And gosh, not long after that, he posted just a simple tweet that said looking for an artist for a thing, anyone interested? Real simple, right? Didn't say what it was. And I think in the most just like half-assed way possible, I responded with a gif of, it was either, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was either like Kramer bursting through Jerry's door, or like somebody waving, right? You know what I mean? Because I didn't think this guy would want to work with me, just I enjoyed what he did. And so I just kind of like halfway like, oh, hey, what do you think? And he sent me a DM maybe within an hour, and we just started kind of going back and forth talking about the project. We hit it off, and here we are.
That is so cool, and it's such a nice story of social media, because a lot of times, especially recently, all we hear about is how Twitter is doing this or enabling that, and and admittedly, the most recent stuff maybe is good stuff, like, oh yeah, they cut off so and so, but like to hear, especially now with the pandemic, like to hear that you two hooked up like virtually in a sense to make art together and to make comics together, whereas so many times, like before Twitter and the online community, it was like deals made at comic conventions or over drinks at a bar. Like it's just neat to hear that kind of success story. So I'm so excited that you did that. Now I want to switch over. You mentioned Jordan Clark, so I want to talk about Elk Mountain, which I'm going to pull up here. Sorry, I'm being old there too. Let's see. There we go. So tell me about Elk Mountain and how this project came together. Also on Comixology. This is actually out now. You can go get it on Comixology. We'll get a link up here in a little bit. But yeah, tell me about how this all came together with Jordan.
Jordan, I also met online, and I did covers. It was actually my first gig. I did covers for his. He did a Kickstarter horror book called Hive Mind. It was a zombie thing, and he hired me to do the covers for that, and we just kind of struck up a friendship after that. And so actually a couple of years went by, and we started having this conversation. It was just like, man, you helped start this journey I'm on, by hiring me for the first time. And by that point, I had done my own book, self-published book, Page Turn. And I had done another project before that. So I was feeling kind of ready to tackle interiors. And so I said to Jordan, maybe we should do something together. And he was like, let me kick around some ideas. He asked me like, what kind of story do you want to tell? And, I was like, well, I'd like to start getting into superheroes, but something that's grounded kind of in the real world. I don't want to go into, too deep into space or other dimensions or anything. I kind of want to tell something that's, where his feet are firmly planted on the ground. And he was like, all right, well, let me think on it. And a week later, he came back with his pitch for Elk Mountain, and which is the idea is this character Valor. He's essentially a Superman-esque figure who flies around the globe saving the world. Puppies or kittens out of trees, burning buildings, bank robberies, volcanoes, the whole 9 yards. But he never left Smallville, so to speak. He never left Elk Mountain. He still lives on the farm. And so he's from this small town, and early in the issue, he disappears. He gets into a battle and he vanishes. And this town is left to deal with the aftermath of that, including all his supervillains coming to take their revenge on their hero they can no longer fight by occupying the town. So it's this story of kind of ordinary people having to figure out how to deal with a world without their hero, and the hero returning and figuring out what it means to deal with a world that didn't necessarily need him or want him. And on top of that, Valor is an immigrant who's born in South America. And so the book kind of explores, when we came up with it, it was early in the Trump administration. So we explore a lot of themes about DACA and immigrants. And it's interesting how, as we had with that story, we explored that they all loved Valor, and then all of a sudden he let them down once, and he's public enemy number one to all these people. And the way that we turn on the other was really a lot of what we were exploring with that book.
Sorry about that. I was muted. I really like the sort of story of Valor and sort of like that immigrant angle, which Superman is an immigrant. I don't know if people they tend to forget that. But I like that at the end of the book, you actually put this. I'll put it up here. How ways you can help, and you list all these different like sort of be vigilant. If you see ICE, do this. If you don't, or if you have friends that are immigrants or you don't know, here's how to help them. And then here's organizations that you can help with, that you can donate to or be a part of. And I just like superheroes are ubiquitous in comics. Like so many people think that's all they are, right? That's all comic is. But with Valor, or Elk Mountain specifically, rather, you get to take the concept of superheroes and explore an interesting like superhero story, which is what happens when the hero is gone, but also sort of empower individuals to stand up and sort of and be their own heroes, and in a very real way, like linked to how we can all be heroes in our community to help those who need it the most. So I was really touched by this. I love the artwork. I had one of the screens up earlier. You're cartooning with facial expressions. The way your characters act is pretty awesome. And there's very few artists that I feel really good at like saying they have like, they emote. Like there's this like, subtlety of facial expression. And then there's like the just crazy angry, sad, or whatever it is. And I really think your characters exude that.
Thank you.
I'm trying to find, okay. I don't think this is a spoiler. I won't keep it up too long, but I just as an example, this page here from Elk Mountain, like, let's see if I can I zoom on this thing? I guess I can't zoom, but I don't know if you can see it, but there's these people reacting over here.
Well, what's great about that page on the right there is that was the last page done in the book, and the reason why is because everyone on that page who isn't one of the villains was a Kickstarter backer who got drawn into the book. So like that bottom panel right there, it's actually my father-in-law.
Oh no way!
Yeah, but so that was a lot of fun. So I really wanted to really go all out for those people. But Yeah, that page is a lot of fun.
But even like earlier on, like there's pictures of people like smirking, smiling, laughing, being like Valor himself has some amazing expressions. Like Superman as like an analog, right? Superman doesn't get a lot of facial expressions in the comics. Only occasionally do you see him really emoting. And that's probably just because, you know, he's stoic, he's this and that, whatever. But you draw him in certain the Valor, you draw with such like intensity at times. I think he's like up in space and confronting something, and he's just making this face of sheer frustration, anger. It's a lot. It's all in one, and it's great. It's not the same like face model over and over again.
Thanks. I really try to, you know, it's got to, that's the thing with comics, right? We have to communicate a lot very, you know, quickly, right? You're glancing at a panel for a moment, right? And if you can't really, subtlety's great, but you know, how much are you really going to linger and pick up all the layers as you're reading through a page, right? You know, I want that to just really jump off the page and into your face.
And I mean, you know, we talk about acting and people are like, oh, whatever. There's still some amazing, like, you know, giant robots in this. Like, there's a lot in this Elk Mountain that I really enjoyed. So I highly recommend, if you haven't checked this out already, please go do. I put the link up earlier, but I'll put it up again. This is obviously not easy to click on. It's a video, but if you just go and look up Elk Mountain on Comixology, you'll find it. Another project that you did that's entirely of your own that you referred to is Page Turn, which I would like to know about this a bit more. Like, I want to know where did the it's very personal, I can tell, right? It's a very
extremely.
Like, where did the idea from your experiences, you know, what was it like the frustration? Like, where did this whole issue sort of come from and make you decide you need to write it up?
Yeah. So to kind of set it up, I guess. So I've been attempting I've always loved comics. I've always, you know, drawn here and there, but I didn't really go into trying to do this seriously as a career until I was 31. And what had happened was life was going along in a certain way. I was working in a different field, and I was in a relationship for about just under 10 years, and it fell apart because of some infidelity with a close friend, and it was really ugly. And after a decade together, your whole life is intertwined, you know, like our car wasn't in my name, right? And so all of a sudden, here I am, 31 years old, I don't have a car anymore. And, you know, you're paying your rent together, so all of a sudden half your rent is gone, right? And everything just kind of like the rug got pulled out from underneath me, right? So here I am entering my 30s, everything I knew, everything I had for basically my whole adult life just disappeared in a very difficult, painful instant, right? So what ended up happening was I ended up, you know, tail between my legs, pride swallowed, went home. And sitting there in a stew of depression and just uncertainty, went, screw it, I'm going to make comics, right? Comics are my number one love. It was something that when I was, you know, a teenager was just like, that's the dream job. So I'm going to go for it. And so I started kind of, you know, I got my digital setup going. I started kind of working on some things. I did those covers for Jordan, and things were kind of rolling along. And I ended up getting my first interior gig shortly after that. It was a prequel comic for a movie that never happened. And I was so excited. I thought it was going to be this huge thing, this big break. Everyone's going to, I'm going to be attached to something that's going to be in theaters and people are going to know. And I had to sign all the NDAs and everything. I was so excited, right? And it never materialized. They never got it made. And The production company moved on to other things, thanked me for my time, cut me my check, and we all moved on. So I was kind of sitting there in the space right after that, and just thinking about what's next, and still very much everything was still really uncertain, really frightening. And there was this kind of voice of doubt surrounding me that was just like, why are you even trying this, right? This comic's not going to come out. You're not good enough. All those things that kind of, come with, depression, right? And so what I would just wake up every morning and be like, okay, I got to draw. And then it was like, well, why bother, right? You're not going to make it in comics. This isn't going to happen. And I was just really struggling with that. This loud voice in my head just saying all these things to me. And what the realization I had was it was echoing all these things I was kind of told at the end of that relationship, right? Like, why, you ask yourself, like, or you ask them, like, why is this happening, right? Why? And it's just like, well, you're going nowhere, or you're not going to do this, or I've thankfully over the last several, years gone like, well, that was all bullshit, right? So I started thinking more and more at this time right before Page Turn about what this voice was, right? And it was very much me, but it also wasn't me. It was echoing the thoughts of somebody who had hurt me, right? If that makes sense. So what Page Turn is it's a single issue that is kind of just a day in the life of myself, kind of waking up, going through my routine, trying to draw comics, trying to figure out where my career is going and what I'm going to do, while a voice off panel is just harassing me the whole time, telling me that I can't do it. So kind of a long explanation as to what it is, but that's kind of the history behind it and how it came about.
No, I think that's it's very powerful. I put up a couple pages from it. I don't know if you saw when I was putting them up. But that's the link to it. Oh. It's okay. Yeah. I do that all the time.
Everything froze for me. I was trying to see if I can get it back, but
StreamYard is a work in progress, right? But let me put that one page back up, because you referenced it and I kind of had it up for a second. Let me put it back. I want everybody to go check this out. It's so powerful, because I've also wrestled. I'm older. I'm like 44. And I have wrestled with creativity and trying to be creative in sort of I haven't had people telling me no, or I haven't had people telling me you can't do it. But I also know what the inner saboteur is, like RuPaul likes to call it, whatever. Like the voice of doubt, like you said, it's very powerful for a lot of people. It stops you from really being creative and pursuing something you think is a passion. And the success or not, it's that whether or not you're good enough, that voice stops you from even trying, from even putting in the work that you need to do to be good. Even if you have talent, you still got to do the work, right? So I love this 2-page, because it's that voices on the left, just all the random things that people, or you tell yourself, right? And then just that utter slump back in the chair frustration that we all have moments of throughout our lives, of just fuck, like it's just too much. Yeah. And how do we kind of turn that around? And I just think it's really powerful for anyone out there who struggles with that, which, let's be honest, probably every creative person does, even if you don't realize it, they do. That voice of doubt's there. They just, some are better than others at like keeping it, suppressed. So I really recommend anyone who is creative, or even take creativity out of it. Anyone who wants to accomplish anything, just go read this issue. It will resonate. It'll give you some really powerful moments, and it's beautiful. It's black and white, but I like it. It's very clean, but it's also very, your storytelling choices, especially like I said, that one page where it's just bubble, bubble, bubble. You have a couple panels where you're showing like little glimpses of the world beyond the narrator's perspective, little emails or texts. So you kind of like peek through the filter and see the reality that's being clouded by this voice of doubt. And I think that's sometimes what it feels like. You kind of like take any good news and it's just filtered by all this stuff in your head, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that, it was interesting because at the time where I did it, I was in the process of healing, right? And being able to tell that story, right? Because I don't think I would have been able to, tell it if I was, completely defeated at that point. But it was funny because like I put it out there and I was so worried that I was going to start getting just inundated with emails and calls from friends being like, "Are you all right, man? Like, are you okay?" And I was like, "Well, I wasn't, but you had to get it out."
No, and I like you said, you really do have to be at a certain level of capability to do something like that. But did telling that story even more help you heal and sort of process what you had been through?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I kind of, like you said, like the idea of peering past that voice and seeing the reality of the situation, it helped me see the world around me a bit more clearly. And also, it does have this message of like, well, this isn't going away. This isn't going to just magically just cure itself. Every day, so there's a line in there that I think about a lot. Is it's a shot of just the pen in my hand, and it says, "Some days this pen is the heaviest thing in the world," and that is still very true. These years later, but the idea, the message behind it is, even if it's for a little bit each day, you keep pushing forward. So yeah, it was helpful to, because when I was working on it, it was originally just a 3-page short. Like I just had a thought, like this idea, like I said, the idea that this voice was following me around, right, to like physically manifest it. And I was like, oh, that's a neat little idea. Let me put that down in 3 pages. And then as I started drawing it, there was no script for this thing. It was all kind of just as weird as that is for comics. It was really stream of consciousness. And so I started doing it, and I get in the middle of page 2, and I go, oh, it would be kind of cool if it happened on 3. And I was like, well, then the 3 becomes 4. Oh, then I could do this. And then it was like, oh, I'm going to do a little 5-page short. That's cool. And then, oh, it's 9 now. And then it, I reeled it into a 22-page issue. But yeah, so a lot of the things on those pages were revelations I was experiencing in real time. Like towards the end, when like it kind of becomes a little more empowered, that was happening. like that. There's basically a splash that like kind of kicks off the last bit, and I didn't know that was going to be there on the day that it happened. That was just, I sat down and went, you know what? This is where I am, and that's going to be the next page of this thing.
Isn't that cool when you're processing something, like you said, in real time, and then you catch up to where you're at that moment? Like you're going through it, but you've been through it, and then finally you're in sync, and that's got to be kind of a cool like moment to experience.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And the as far as that thing also helping me through everything I was going through, there was something that I just did not expect at all. I was shocked that people read it, let alone, especially after it went up on Comixology, after a few months, after I did it, I just get a random email here and there. And that's happened up until I think the last time that happened was even a few months ago. The book's a couple years old now, where it's just somebody going like, "Hey, I've been through these things. Thanks for doing this." It really helped, and it blows me away every time. I'm, like I said, I just can't believe that people have looked at what I've done, let alone took something from it. So that's that's a really powerful thing as far as helping me push through things. And then also, you know, just the sheer fact that I put that out into the world, if I lay down and quit, not a good look to put out a message of just power through and then quitting. So, and the book kind of shames me into keep going every once in a while.
I love that though. I love it sort of setting external drivers to prod you along. I always talk about that with friends where I'm like, no. Don't rely on your own, like whatever. Set external deadlines and external, you know, things, and you'll really deliver. Gosh, I really think that's so cool. And especially in the pandemic, I know a lot of people, especially if you're not with a partner, or even if you're with a partner and you're like, oh, my partner's awesome, but oh my God, I see them every day. Like having something to sort of be inspired by is really hard. And even if it's not your own inner saboteur as much as like, oh, you can't do it. It's you need some light at the end of the tunnel. You need some like reminder to like, hey, no, do the work. Let's get out there. Let's do this thing, you know, and then do the best. So, I mean, I hope people discover it now, especially with your work on the miracles, which I did find the page I think you were talking about on your website. So I want to come back to that. But yeah, I really hope people go back now and read Page Turn, because it really is a gem. So, you know, thank you for sharing that with the world. I think it's useful and important.
Yeah, that was the other thing about it is once I kind of ripped off that Band-Aid of basically, you know, I like the closest I can come to was like, it's like I stood naked in front of everybody, right? Like that's the most, like, almost about as personal a look at me as you could get. And once that happened, like now I have like I share everything. Because it's like I've already stood in front of you all and showed you the darkest like places of myself. Like I like once seriously, like the day I clicked, you know, like I uploaded that comic, it was just like, well, here I am, everyone. Nothing to hide now.
Man, that's it's got to be liberating and feel really good afterwards, other than being terrifying too. So I'm going to go back to the miracles real quick.
Sure.
This should be up when the Kickstarter is live, so we're going to put a link to that here. But I did find on your website, so I can share it. This is the Kirby-esque sort of style you were talking about.
My video's been frozen for 10 minutes, so I'm just gonna assume yes.
So I'll tell you what it says, and that way you might know. It says it's from the Miracles page 3,
yes,
a sequential sample. Okay. I love this. I love Kirby so much. I didn't used to. Do you remember? I don't know. It doesn't matter how old you are, but do you remember when Kirby was still alive and doing work with Topps?
Barely. I'm 38. So
you're not far off, though. Like,
yeah,
we're in the ballpark. So Secret Six, or Satan's Six, I think. Gosh, it's been a little bit now, but there was like a line that he did with Topps Comics, and that was my first exposure to Kirby that I knew of. I didn't know a lot of the Kirby old Marvel stuff and DC, none at all. And so I didn't love it at first. His style was just so different, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the first time I saw Mignola, I was like, what is this? This looks like garbage. Actually, I tell people this too. The first Frank Quitely All-Star Superman issue #1, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I now think that Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison are two of my favorite creators of all time. And All-Star Superman is just one of my favorite comics. But be that as it may, Kirby's style is so awesome and so interesting. And you, I think, have not only captured like the Kirby dots and certain other like effects or trappings of his style, but you've got the dynamicism that makes it so cool. So I'm really excited that this is part of what is in the Miracles. Now, I had not seen this until just now. So this is great.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's been, like I said, it's been a lot of fun. Like Kirby was my first obsession. Like I got into comics through the X-Men, and I just happened to Marvel put out a reprint of the original #1 from '63. Mm-hmm. And so that was maybe the second or third comic book I ever owned. And I carried a copy of it rolled up in my pocket on the playground, and just I've probably read X-Men #1 200, 300 times, you know. And so, yeah, I was just obsessed. And then our school library just had a collection of like Kirby Captain America stories randomly, like the only comics in there. And so, like I said, it was my first real comic book obsession. So to kind of put all that to use on the page, it's just been fantastic. And it's so nice to hear you say that you think I nailed it, because like I know his work inside and out, and you know, it's just been a blast.
And you color your own stuff as well. Or wait, no, there's who's your colorist?
Okay, so our colorist on the Miracles is Harry Saxon.
Harry Saxon, yes.
Yeah. However, the Kirby stuff, because my vision for it is so specific, and it's basically flat colors. I am doing those bits myself.
That's it. Okay, because I was like, the other stuff, it's a different type of coloring too, for sure. So let's talk about the Kickstarter real quick. And I want to, again, this will be live when this goes up. Hey, so people who are watching, which we have a couple comments I'll go through in a second, but people watching now, obviously you can't go back this, but you can get notified when it goes live. I'm going to put the link up here again. If you just Google Kickstarter The Miracles, but that's the whole URL. Now I'm gone. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard tonight, but either way, Kickstarter.com/projects/Joe Glass/the-miracles. This will be live for most people who watch this starting on Tuesday, the 2nd of February, correct?
Correct.
This will be live. It is a 120-page full color graphic novel, all in a package. I know Joe said that there's going to be some amazing announcements that he can't wait to reveal tomorrow with the cover artist and just the different.
That cover actually came in today, and my brain just it is amazing.
I'm so excited to find that out and to see it, like and different backing levels and all that. So if you are interested in comics and the way they relate to real world in terms of like, you know, how they inform people and their decisions, and then sort of finding out the hidden history and all that stuff. I think that's really cool. It's very Grant Morrison. I'm a big Morrison fan. So anytime you have fiction mixing with reality and just that intersection and how that interplay is, it's a cool concept to play with. But the art again that you're doing is so awesome. I'm just very excited for you guys. I really hope this project is successful. I have no doubts that it will be. This is not your first Kickstarter, right?
No, Elk Mountain was done via Kickstarter.
So you've been there before. You're used to the roller coaster, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. This is obviously, with it being 120 pages, and we're also doing a limited hardcover run and everything. It is a much bigger campaign than the single issue of Elk Mountain we did, but so you know, definitely got the butterflies, but not my first rodeo.
Good. No, it's always anytime I know someone who's done a Kickstarter, I think that first time is the worst, because it's just, you just don't know how it's going to go. And you know, Joe is concerned obviously that the economy and pandemic and all that, but I feel like I buy more stuff through Kickstarter these days because I don't go to an LCS as much, and I'm actually more interested in supporting independently made comics than I am the big two, or, you know, even Image to some extent. So I'm so excited for you. I don't want to forget about our comments, because I know our loyal fan base that loves to support us and listen, and they're here for us. Another fellow artist, James Figueredo, is joined us. In fact, he had a lovely comment. That was a wonderful comment. This is back to talking about page turn. He went through something similar with his former relationship, 11 years, and thought about making a comic about it, but it terrifies him to put it all out there like that. Yeah. So kudos to Vince for going for it and bearing it all with such a great art too. So that's yes. I also had a long-term relationship that ended not great a while ago, and I right there on the same page. It can be a life-altering experience and makes you question a lot. Yeah. And then another fellow artist, Matt Broussard, who also has a great clean line, and I love his style. Jamie McKelvey vibes are doing it for him, so he's very excited. So that's really cool. I'm so glad that we had some comments on that. Gosh, yeah. What else? Is there anything else that you want to share that you're excited about right now? Anything that you want to tease? I mean, where can actually, let's do this. Where can they find you? I think your website.
Yeah, website's real simple. It's vinceunderwood.com. That's basically like a hub will take you anywhere to pick up, Elk Mountain or Page Turn. I'm going to be putting up links to the Kickstarter there as well. There's links to my socials, at Vince Underwood at Twitter, at Vince Underwood Art on Instagram. And links to my print shop. Not a lot of kind of comic stuff there on the print shop, but if you're a fan of the Hamilton musical, my biggest seller over the last 3 years have been a series of Hamilton posters.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I did them just for fun, like 3 years ago. Cause a little longer, gosh, now like 4 or 5 years ago. Just cause I knew someone who was way into Hamilton, and I did like a series for them. They were like, oh, you should make them prints. And I sent out 14 of them this morning. Like they're like, people love Hamilton. So if you love Hamilton, I got a lot of Hamilton prints for you.
All right. Hold that thought here. I'm going to just show a couple of your, so that one that's one of the ones you're talking about, or is that's the
video still frozen?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So it's the line, I'm running with the Sons of Liberty.
Oh yeah.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. That's one of them.
I love that. And then another one that I noticed you have, for our Star Wars fans.
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
I really appreciate your being an ally for the queer community, both at the helping queer creators to realize their Kickstarter or their comics, but also to put out for the shippers of Poe and Finn.
I mean that's the way it should have gone.
Amen.
We all know it. I mean when I first did that print, like the file name on my computer is J.J. Abrams is a coward. So didn't know what anyone needs to be done.
I agree with you 100%. I just found this too. So again, this is all on vinceunderwood.com, but you have it's King George, right? I will kill your friends and family. And remind you of my love. Like you got these great little one sheet. I have friends I love Hamilton too, but I have friends who would love these. I wish I had seen this before like holidays, or I would have ordered a bunch of them myself, but there's another holiday, I'm sure, and there's birthdays coming, so I got to come back. But these are all up on vinceunderwood.com. So please, if you're, interested in getting prints, which right now without Comic-Cons, how are you getting prints? You got to go support your local artists and go to their websites, right?
Absolutely.
Hopefully when the cons are back, and the world is sane again, maybe I'll get to run into you at a comic convention.
Yeah, that would be nice, because I just started reaching the point where, more and more of my stuff is out there. I know more people, and I honestly, I kid you not, all through last January was going, 2020 is going to be my year to start meeting people and hanging out at cons. I'm going to start socializing with the comic scene. That was my number one goal for 2020.
Oh no.
So that went real well.
Yeah. Well, no fault of your own, at least. I would say right now, you got to come up to Emerald City, because Emerald City is my local. I'm in Seattle, local show. From everything I've been told, which I have not actually been myself, but now that I know, and I'm going to go this year, they moved it to December. So they didn't have one last year, obviously. They pushed it all the way out to December. I think it's possible it might actually be in person. We'll see. Keep all our fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If you can ever get to Heroes, I know it's, other side of the world, right? For us, Heroes Con is so much fun. I talk about it all the time. It's some of my favorite comic book experiences. And I think you would have a ball at just talking comics with all the comics pros there. It's a great show in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you'll have to put that on your radar for probably 2022 would be my guess, because that's like a June show. So I'm like, But anyway, I hope to see you out at the shows. I definitely am excited when that year does finally come for all of us. But yeah, Vince, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. And The Miracles, again, is launching on Kickstarter tomorrow, or when you watch this, go to the website. It's probably live then. And yeah, as soon as this is fully funded, we're going to, I don't know, have a little virtual party or something. I feel like we should do
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I'll figure out a way to get you and Joe, at all the same time zone, which is, good luck, right? But yeah, thanks so much again. And again, VinceUnderwood.com. Please go check out all the prints and Elk Mountain and Page Turn. And again, thanks so much for being on our Rainbow Spotlight.
And thank you so much for having me. I had a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Take care of yourself.